Oadby and Wixton being run by the Liberal Democrats, John?
In 1991, the then Tory administration got themselves into all manner of financial trouble, and a letter in the public interest was written by the auditors. That created an election, and Oadby and Wixton's been run by the Liberal Democrats ever since.
So I've seen in each election over the last 6 years, they've been doing well, hands down, haven't they?
We did rather well at the last election 2 years ago. There's no doubt of that. But we've always tended to book the national trend. We basically are 26 local people working for our own community. We don't have lots of people coming in from the outside. At one point, there was actually more than 26 Oadby and Wixton councillors, because a fair number of the city councillors were actually living in Oadby and Wixton. These days, 26 of us working and living within the borough, doing the best for the borough. And I think that takes the big politics out. This is about our borough and how we can best serve it.
So, of course, on May the 6th, we have the county elections, John.
That's correct.
What is your manifesto?
Well, I think at the county, we need more openness, we need more transparency, but the county are more interested in investing in land and property deals than they are in people. And I think what the county needs to do, certainly in terms of social services provision, is to get out there and improve what they're doing now. They're constantly looking to raise money. Now, I do accept that the Tory government has not funded Leicestershire County Council well. In fact, it's the worst funded county council in the country. But nonetheless, you still see most of what the county council does is about money, is about income generation, and it's not about what it should be, which is the people of Leicestershire.
So I often wonder why the councils don't empower the local communities so that they can all come out with some self-generating, self-sustaining ideas which can develop tomorrow's generations from our 5 to 6 year olds, and use all our available spaces in a more constructive manner, John?
That's a big question. You're absolutely right. What should happen is that there should be more from the bottom up development in this country. But what tends to happen, and it's set, the agenda in that sense is set by government. We are being told to build an enormous number of houses in Leicestershire over the next 20 years. Getting on for 200,000 in 20 years is probably not an unreasonable estimate. You also have to put employment in place to go with the houses. And the challenge is to have that done in a planned way. Otherwise, you end up with complete chaos and the infrastructure won't cope. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. There has to be a way which enables, whether it be individuals, families, communities, or whatever, the ability to grow organically from the bottom. And that is a real challenge. And frankly, it's one that I don't think this government, or frankly, the current county council, knows how to cope with.
I have spoken to many of the residents in Oadby and Wixton and discussed at length about how we can improve the whole borough. And when the mosque was given permission in Oadby, it created a lot of cohesion there in that area. The mosque is supporting many, many initiatives. And I'll come back to some of the other issues that they have brought to my attention about the car park charges and understanding the dynamics of a mosque where you're praying 5 times a day, communal prayer, which at the moment, as you know, due to COVID, has come to a halt. But this is a matter of concern. The charges at the car park, which is under the county council, and then the Oadby Borough Council are responsible for the Uplands Park, and they're looking to put charges there as well. Can we not look to generate income in other ways by
Let me be
another
clear
method, John?
first. Let's talk about Sandhurst Street Car Park. At the moment, the Borough Council spends £157,000 a year maintaining its car parks, and that's a net figure. That's what we spend after we get income. We cannot sustain that. There is no question. We simply cannot sustain that as a borough. 10 years ago, we had a turnover of about 10 million. Now we've got a turnover of less than 8. And the simple fact is that the way the government has funded local authorities, it has simply slashed out so much of our income streams. And we've had to cut back accordingly. Well, you do get to a point where there's nothing left to cut, and we're really at that point. So we have to find an income stream. Now, remember, we started talking about my then day job of working for a charity in the city next to a mosque. This is a common problem. I do accept that, but we mustn't make it a religious problem. It's not. It's a parking problem. I seem to remember some research years ago, and it actually mattered when the Centre Street Community Centre became, as you said, a place of prayer. Most people are actually, in Muslim terms, encouraged to walk to prayer. The fact that we're all reliant on our car is almost a sign of failure. We actually need to get back to smaller communities and get back to being able to walk to places like the community centre. As equally, we are currently we're about to go out for consultation. We're not daft. We know that there are problems. We will talk to all of the community centres, all of the businesses, about how we can make this as painless as possible, whilst at the same time resolving our income stream problems. So we're not here with an iron fist to impose. We're here to listen, but unfortunately, we do need to raise some income from the car parks. We simply cannot afford to continue to make them free in that sense. But we will listen and we will talk to people.
Of course, there are some ideas, John, that we can share together offline of the program that can help generate the income that you are referring to. And this is where I'm talking about ownership. When we give the community ownership of our problems, our collective problems, we can always come to a solution. But as soon as they hear a charge, it's like all hell breaks loose, John. Any charge of any description anyway.
But I think what you have to accept is, at the moment, all council taxpayers are subsidising the motorist, because all council taxpayers pay their council tax. And as I said a moment ago, the net result is we spend £157,000 a year maintaining the car parks for shopping free for 3 hours. Well, nothing is actually free, because clearly that money is generated by all residents, not by just some. So we need to balance that out a bit better. Now, the charging, I don't think it will be onerous, but it will encourage people to park their car for a couple of hours, shop and support the shops. I mean, clearly we are longer term looking at improving the public realm within both town centres, but clearly we cannot sustain paying out for free car parking, because, as I said, it's not free.
So, John, many of the shoppers, they might say, oh, let me go to the Foss Park, the new Foss Park is brand new, and the car parking is free there. And if I come here, I have to pay 250. If I go to the High Cross, I have to pay money there. And
Well,
decisions are
let me
going
be
to be
clear.
influenced in that manner.
Whilst I think it's too early to say precisely what the charges will be, because, as I say, there is a period of I can't remember how long, it's 6 to 8 weeks consultation, which will take place first. Then we'll come to a conclusion about quite a lot of things. There's quite a lot of detail to work through. But my guess would be you're looking at £1 for a couple of hours. We are not looking at £2.50 and a pay on exit after an hour system. We're looking at something similar to what we have now, possibly some form of telephone system to help people park, as well as a machine. And we want to make it as simple and as pain-free as possible. You're right, there is always going to be an issue of going to Foss Park. Interestingly, I live, in terms of certainly Oadby, I live closer to Blaby Town Centre, and Wigston probably about the same distance, because I live right on the edge of the borough. And we still go into Wigston. We're still drawn to Wigston because of the shops. And I'm sure the people in Oadby will still be drawn to Oadby by the shops. And I know we're in a bit of a recession. I know COVID's been exceptionally difficult. But by July, August, my guess would be the high street will be buzzing again. And if it's going to cost you £1 to park in Oadby for a couple of hours, I think most people will take that. And I think most people will understand the reason why.
Okay, John, let's move on to the Uplands Park. There's a car park there as well. It handles about 22 cars. And putting a charge on there, that deters people from...
No.
We're
that will not be charged.
Very much focused on health and well-being and fitness. And this is also a matter of concern that people will say, well, I'm not going there. But ideally, I agree with you, John, that we want people to walk. And walk in itself is an act of fitness.
The car parks next to parks, next to open spaces, there is not an intention. Uplands, Coombe Park, Willow Park, Blaby Road Park, there is no intention of charging for those. The intention is to charge for the car parks within the town centres, and Brox Hill as well, because clearly, again, Brox Hill is a country park paid for by us all. And it doesn't actually even charge currently for the car park, which most country parks do. So we just need to balance that out.
Of course, the listeners will be very pleased to know that. And the essence is to get more and more people to start using these green facilities before we start losing them. And if they're not used effectively, then they'll have no purpose. And green space is absolutely important. Is that right, John?
No, I couldn't agree more. We all need green space. We need the ability to get out there, get as far away, truthfully, from the car as possible. And I think we are doing that. That I think all our parks are improving. We're certainly putting in play fitness equipment in more parks as we go along, and we refresh the children's play equipment as often as we can afford it. So yes, we will and continue to maintain and invest in our parks. I don't see the car as any change on that, beyond the fact that, as I said, Brox Hill, which is a pretty significant open space, there is an issue there of charging for that car park. But beyond that, no, the other parks will remain free because they're too important not to.
Of course, John, these car parks are just one issue that we have on the table today that people have brought to my attention to discuss with you. And there are some other issues as well, which I'd like to go through to you with you after we've had a short break, and
Okay,
give
fine.
us a chance, John, to charge up our batteries, and then we can deal with these list of issues that it's not a very long, extensive list, but very important to discuss this with the May the 6th election coming up, John.
Happy to talk.
So if we can pick up after the break, then we shall move on with those discussions. Is that okay, John?
No, no problem at all.
We're going to have a short break now, John.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Riyadh. And of course, I can't see you, but you can still put your hand up and do a little bit of fitness. John, are we back on air, John?
Fine, nice to speak to you again.
Now, John, you know, in the month of Ramadan, it's the first two or 3 days, the battery is a little low, the body is adapting and cleansing at the same time, John. Are you familiar with the process of Ramadan, John?
Yes, I understand that you fast from sun up to sundown, and obviously prayer is an important part as well.
Of course, sunrise to sunset. And the month is filled with kindness, with extending humanity to each other, to your neighbors, to the whole world, in the whole global world, and to bring everybody together. And it's a blessed month, John. And it's a month where the Muslim community will excel at giving charity and doing good deeds, which we call sadaqah. Sadaqah is a word used for the good deeds that we do, charity. And our good actions plant the seeds for our good deeds to follow, John.
I'm amazed. I mean, as I said earlier, I work for a charity. I'm obviously working and leading a council. I come into contact with many people, and I'm amazed at how many Muslims actually are I come across who do good work. I mean, yes, other communities do, but I'm absolutely amazed. And as you say, this is a time of year where you certainly see people stepping up to the plate and giving not just to their own, but to all communities. And I think it's something to be really proud of.
Of course, last year, John, I don't know if you will have been made aware, there's a new hospital called the Children's Wing, Children's Hospital. It's a special ward for the children to rival the one in Great Ormond in London. And here, all of us at the radio took the initiative to bring all communities together, the Sikh community, the Gujarati, the Hindu, all the diversities that we have in the city here, John. There's almost 40 plus languages and 20 diversities just where we are sitting on Evington Road. And we successfully raised a substantial amount of money, and this would never have been possible without the support of the business community and the other charities in the city. And the figure that we raised was in the region of £250,000. Were you aware of that, John?
I was aware of that. The person who introduced me to you, of course, was Zafar Haq, and Zafar is a great supporter of the Liberal Democrats, but also a significant mover and shaker within the health world. And he has been campaigning on these things for many years. And obviously through Zafar, one does understand these things. And where I can, I offer support as well.
I would like very much to get the Ordby and Wixton Borough Council and the whole region involved in this initiative so we can finish this project this year. They're still looking for more and more funds, and quite a number of sizable people have become involved. And this is what I'm talking about, John, is if we extend ownership to our communities and get them involved, even if somebody's put £2 or £10 to a project, he takes pride in that, it becomes his own. And the element of neglect or vandalism, or this is very important, John. What I'm trying to put through is that all our spaces are very dear to us, and ownership to the community, for the community, is what I am absolutely campaigning for. And I'd like you to join me in this initiative, John.
I'm more than happy to do so. And I think what you were saying a moment ago about ownership is so vitally true. Those places which take a pride, I'll start with yourself and then say your community, and both locally and then in the wider community, you see immediately the difference that makes. The world is a much better place where people do that. And I'm more than happy to do what I can to assist that.
So in doing so, John, we not only build our bridges, we build a bond, and we're going to have sustainability and longevity. Certainly, the council can benefit from that if we have to be a model for others to follow. And I live in the borough, and I would very much like to be part of that initiative, which is progressive going forward and creating a better world for tomorrow's generation. We talked earlier on about cars, why people are driving to a car park. Another 5 years, John, the whole concept of cars will disappear. People will be on their mobile phone calling a car, and a car will just be wandering about all over Leicester with the different passengers. New age
I'm
of a
sure.
taxi, almost, John.
No, I think you're right. There will be a massive change. I mean, we're already putting electric charging points in our car parks. Not all of them. I mean, one of the things that people don't realise is that there is a requirement on the actual grid to have enough power available. So that is one of the areas which has already been highlighted and work is going on. So at some point they're going to dig the roads up and put bigger cables down for the electric company. But we're already starting that process. And you're right. I think there will be a change. I think COVID has already made a change to the high street. And it's not easy to predict where that will go in the next 5 years. I think a lot of the high street will come back, but it won't necessarily come back as it was before. There used to be in towns this concept of anchor stores. And Oadby itself, you could think of Sainsbury's, you can think of Asda as anchor stores. Well, actually, in many ways, the parade, which is the heart of town centre, you're beginning to look at Marks and Spencer's. But tomorrow, I suspect it won't be those big stores. It'll be all of the little stores and the leisure activities, the hospitality. There'll be more cafes. There'll be more places where people will sit outside. And I think that's the way the world is likely to change. And I think that will create some differences. And I also think we tend to think about shopping a 9 till 5 type sort of activity. My guess would be that shopping will change as well in terms of time. And although we talked a moment about the car parks, and they will be basically 9 till 5-ish, 9 till 6, whatever. But I think over time, the shops may stay open a little bit longer. That point, the car parks become free. So you actually see a change all of the time, and it's very difficult to predict. But I'm sure the town centres will come back, and I'm sure we're doing our bit to try and help them as well.
So I'm very much so keen to engage with yourselves, John, the business community, so collectively many objectives can be achieved, because we're all here together, and if we can work together on these initiatives, share, and we will get far.
Absolutely. I think one of the things, certainly in my time as leader, we've talked about health, so we'll start with that. We have a health and wellbeing board, which mainly talks to all of the groups in the borough that deal with health and wellbeing, which are actually quite complex. There's lots of them, lots of people who get involved in that. We have a community engagement group, which tries to create links between and with all of the various community groups. There are lots and lots of those. We have local forums where we try and engage with individuals, and I am more than happy. It may well be that we have had some business forum type work. It's not a very straightforward. We will if we need to, and after this, I'm happy to talk to you about whether we can set up some form of business forum as well. More than happy. And it's often the small steps that these groups make which actually have a big result. And so I'm more than happy to talk to you or anybody else for that matter about how we can move these things forward.
Of course, I will definitely take you up on that offer, John. I think it's a wonderful idea. If we don't meet and talk and we don't share that samosa. Are you familiar with that, John, a samosa?
I've eaten the odd samosa or two,
Yeah.
and maybe even a bhaji. I mean, when we were at Catherine House some years ago, the great joy was, of course, people are extremely hospitable, and you would often go for lunch. And so I am known to eat all manner of things, and much to my pleasure as well. So absolutely.
Of course, John, you will appreciate that around this time in the day, your mind
Yes,
starts thinking about food.
That was probably a
all
little
different
insensitive
varieties
of me.
your
I do
body is
apologise.
talking, your stomach is
I
talking
hope
to your
it
head,
gets dark sooner.
and that's what happens, John. So,
But as I say, I can appreciate. I'm not one for starving myself too often. So as I said, I hope the time moves quickly for you.
very diplomatic, John. Now, John, we need to talk about these upcoming county elections and May the 6th. And are you ready for that?
We are indeed. We have people. I'm not standing. I've never stood for county. I believe personally that I'd rather do one job as well as I can rather than two jobs not slightly in conflict with each other. So I've never been a county councillor, but we have 5 good councillors who work hard for our residents at the county hall, and I'm sure that with your support they will be re-elected. So and they're out working hard now as we speak.
Well, on a positive note, John, we have the weekly bin selections in the Ordby and Wixton Borough Council at this moment, and which is in other boroughs outside of us. They are at a fortnight, and we have the issue of the green waste as well, John.
Well, you're right, of course. First things first, we have to pick up normal household refuse, and we have to pick up recycling. They're statutory. We have to do that, and we will keep that weekly for as long as possible. I have to say, you do realise that in some parts of the country it's actually 3 weekly collections. So I mean, we are aware of that, and we will always keep that service as high and as cost effective as we can. Green waste is slightly different. It's not a statutory service. We don't have to do it, and therefore it really does need to pay for itself. And unfortunately, that means it's had a rise this year. We are in the middle of the pack in terms of the other districts in the county. We're not charging the most by any means. Yes, we're not charging the least, but it depends on your finances. And as I said, I make no bones about this. We have reduced the size of our council over the last 10 years significantly. And eventually that does mean that some of those costs have to be pushed on to our users. But we've kept it as sensible as we can. I think we were unlikely to raise the cost of the green waste again for the next couple of years or even longer. So I think our refuse recycling and green waste services are probably about as best you can in this county as we speak today.
So, John, here on this particular program, we call it the MAD initiative. The MAD means make a difference. We like to every year do our 30 days of Ramadan, and we do radio broadcast during that time. We are almost 40 plus presenters during that time. We're not professional. We do this for the sake of the community, for the benefit of the community, and each milestone that we discuss, we action it thereafter and make sure that we have the next 11 months to recover from this 1 month that we work tirelessly to get results, John.
Yes, I understand. I think if there was one thing today that we all need to concentrate on, and that, I'm afraid, is COVID. We have to all make sure if you're called or eligible for a jab, you get it. First or second, you must get your jabs, because what is clear, this country is coming out of a lockdown at the moment. What will keep us out is, and I'm not a doctor, so this is a, received wisdom. What will keep us out has got to be all of us being vaccinated, and we must do that. But also, there are these issues of hands, face, and space. We all need to get that message out. And I'm sure if we do that, then we will save lives. Forget about being well off and so on. Let's concentrate on something really important. This will save lives. We've lost far too many people, and the borough has actually done very badly in terms of its death rate over COVID. We've lost 160 odd people the last time I looked, out of 56,000. So that's a rate of about 300 plus per 100,000. The country is about 180,000. So we really do need to concentrate on COVID now, and then there will be more of us to have a brighter future. Yes, all the other things matter, but I just feel that today, that is the most important message. Do the right thing regarding COVID.
Of course, John, each day since we started our transmission on Tuesday, throughout the day we talk about this. Almost we want to hammer it into somebody's head, everybody's head, that the way forward is to follow guidelines, to put your mask on, and absolutely maintain the social distance. It is now up to us, the community, all of you listening right now, to make that difference. We are not going to make that difference if we continue to let our guard down, John.
I think that's the trick. That is absolutely right. I think the real risk today is greater than it was probably 6 or 7 months ago, because today the figures are getting better almost by the minute. And so people will relax too much. We need to relax probably 2, 3, 4 weeks down the line, not today. And that way, when we've all been vaccinated, everybody in the country will eventually have to be vaccinated. And at that point, we start being generally safe. Whereas at the moment, if there's 5% of the population, 10% of the population who are not getting vaccinated, this virus will continue to be there and will continue to be circulating. And that's the real danger. We need to get out of this properly.
Right, John, on Saturday and on Sunday, we have a huge emphasis on vaccine. We have doctors, we have experts to answer these questions to the general public who will text in and ask. And we're going to spend a lot of time on this subject continuously throughout the month of Ramadan. Now, I'm also going to send you a link for this Ramadan radio. I would like very much for you to share it with your team so they can also engage, and we're going to afterwards go down that road of prevention is better than cure, John. That's the way forward.
And I absolutely agree with you. We have people who are working on vaccine, people who are concerned about taking vaccines, people who are difficult to reach. We are working on that all the time. And
John, my producer tells me we're almost at the end of the program now, so we're going to have to say goodbye now. Thank you, John.
Okay. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.